Finding and estimating square roots. So in this video we will talk about square roots, what they are, how to figure them out, and how to estimate them when they are irrational. So first we will go over perfect squares. So squaring a number means to multiply it by itself. So if I have 1 squared, that means 1 times 1, which is of course 1. 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is 4. And then 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25, and the list just keeps on going. There are an infinite number of these. These numbers in the second column, 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, these are perfect squares. And again, there's an infinite number of these perfect squares. They could go on forever. Okay, taking the square root is the opposite of that. So this means to figure out what number you squared in order to get the given number. In other words, square roots undo squares. Still in other words, these operations are inverses. So let me explain that, why that is. Let's say that I had 4 squared is 16 because 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, so the square root then of 16 would look like this. And it's asking you a question. It's saying, here's the question, what did we square in order to get 16? And because we know that 4 squared is 16, that answer would just be 4. Okay, so I have those perfect squares that we talked about earlier with square roots on all of them. So we're going to figure all of these out, and it will only take a moment. The square root of 1, so what do I square that gets 1? What times what? What times itself is 1? 1, of course. What times itself is 4? 2. What times itself is 9? 3. And so you see how I have all of these in order. 6 times 6 is 36. 5 times 5 is 25. 4 times 4 is 16. We'll continue over here. So square root of 49 is 7. The square root of 64 is 8. 9, 10. These are good to have memorized. We could keep going. Square root of 169 is 13. Square root of 196 is 14. So we could keep going forever. At this point, you may need a calculator to help figure it out. Okay, so let's talk about estimating square roots. So we have a small number, 8, and we want to figure out what the square root of 8 is between what 2 integers. So let's go back for just a second and kind of figure out where 8 would fall on this list. If I added the square root of 2, 3, 5, 6, if I added them back to this list, where would they be? Well, the square root of 8 would be somewhere in between the square root of 4 and the square root of 9. Okay, that means that whatever it is equal to should be in between 2 and 3. So let's look at it on a number line. Okay, so the square root of 4 is equal to 2. The square root of 9 is equal to 3, right? So that means that the square root of 8 would have to be somewhere in between here. I can prove that to you if we look at a calculator. You could put in there, if we put the square root of 8 in our calculator, we would see it's about 2.8. Okay, what about this question? The square root of 24 is closest to which integer? A4, B12, C5, or D6? Okay, well, if we think about those perfect squares from the previous page, we would remember that 5 squared was equal to 25. In other words, the square root of 25 is equal to 5. 24 is pretty close to 5, so I'm thinking that it's going to be C. But if we put it on a number line, So imagine this is our number line. We know that the square root of 25 is equal to 5. So the square root of 24 would be very close to 5. I want to add to here that we know that 4 squared is 16, right? So the square root of 16 is going to be right here. Since you might be tempted to answer 4 on this, so I want to explain why it wouldn't be 4. The 16 is, and 25, if you think about those two numbers, 24 is a whole lot closer to 25 than it is 16. So the square root of 24 is going to be a whole lot closer to the square root of 25, 5, than it would be the square root of 16, or 4. I hope that makes sense. We can clear up any questions that you have. You can leave comments, or we can talk about it in class. Talk to you later, guys.